One of the key takeaways from my session is to ask leaders to consider the counterintuitive role that vulnerability plays in leading. Building on the foundational work of Brene Brown, who reminds us that the word in the English language, vulnerability, is not weakness. We tend to think, I don't want to be vulnerable, that means I'm weak. But in fact, the definition of vulnerability is putting oneself out there with no guarantees. And that's what leading's about, especially in a world where we can't count on anything these days, where it's increasingly volatile and uncertain, chaotic and complex and ambiguous. All we have is ourselves. In fact, leading is a probabilistic endeavor, right? We don't actually determine the outcomes. We actually create sets of conditions that increase the likelihood we're going to get the outcomes we want and decrease the likelihood we won't get those that we don't. And we count on other people for our own success. And that requires us to be vulnerable, to absolutely put ourselves out there with no guarantees. So organizations like PEO are absolutely essential in today's business world, particularly for leaders. I counsel leaders, I coach leaders, I advise leaders all over the world. And the first reaction I have when I sit down with a leader is, they're lonely. Right? You feel so lonely when you're in a leadership position. And I just tell them, you don't have to go it alone. And yet it's really challenging when you're in a pinnacle position or in a leadership position and you look around for peers and who can I share my struggles with? And organizations like PEO do two things that I think are incredibly important. One, they provide a support network where leaders can gather together and support each other outside their organizations. And two, they provide challenge and support and new ideas and forced reflection to help leaders to continue to grow, which can usually happen best outside the organization because they're always working and we get our silos on and our blinders on. But to get outside the day-to-day work, have some forced reflection, and I know how important reflection is, but unless it's forced, we don't usually do it. And then to do that with like-minded people who support each other, that's how we grow. All incredible performance happens at the intersection of high challenge and high support. Call it tough love, right? Too much support and that's everyone gets a trophy and we don't grow, right? We just stay as we are. Too much challenge, we get paralyzed. When you're leading, to try to find that sweet spot of high challenge and high support inside your own organization is really difficult. Most leaders I sit down and mentor are incredibly lonely. And the first thing I want to tell them, you don't have to go it alone, even though that's what it feels like when you're in a leadership position. So to have organizations like PEO that are designed to support each other and to build this supportive network where we both challenge and support them periodically with new ideas, forced reflection, but in the context of like-minded people, leaders who are facing some of the same challenges but in slightly different contexts, it makes all the difference.